welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast. And this week I'm recording live from X4, the event by Qualtrics here in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I'm going to be here for 3 days of inspiring keynotes, breakthrough product sessions, and much more, because there's so much going on here with everything from keynotes with some pretty big names, from Ryan Reynolds to Martha Stewart, and even music by The Killers. The big questions here are, how do you turn a customer into a fanatic, an employee into an ambassador, a product into an obsession, a brand into a religion, and create those right home, tell everyone you know kind of experiences? So essentially, the Qualtrics Experience Management software platform helps brands continually assess the quality of their 4 core experiences: customers, employees, products, and brands. But how is their technology helping organizations be at every single meaningful touch point for every experience, and also predict which changes will resonate most with stakeholders? These are just a few of the things I want to try and learn more about this week, so buckle up and hold on tight, because no matter where you're listening in the world, I'm going to beam your ears all the way to Salt Lake City and give you a virtual backstage pass so you can join me. And today, Brad Anderson, President of Products and Engineering at Qualtrics, in a conversation about all this. And we'll also learn more about his origin story, the time he spent at Microsoft. So many great stories there too. But let's get him on the show now. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Brad. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
You bet. Hey, first of all, thank you for inviting me here. This is going to be a lot of fun. My name is Brad Anderson, and for the last 2 years, I've been here at Qualtrics, and I run our product and engineering team. So my team is responsible for working with our customers, understanding where the market needs to go, and building those amazing products that help organizations close experience gaps.
Fantastic. And of all the podcast episodes I've recorded, this has got to be the grandest. It's beautiful here, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a really interesting hotel where we're at today, and it actually has some interesting kind of personal connections. This hotel, this very building, was my in-laws' getaway. So every year for Christmas, we would give my in-laws a getaway for the weekend at this hotel. And so it's, it has a lot of personal memories to me. And it's fascinating to be back. We lived in Seattle for the last 20 years. And so being back in Salt Lake and, coming here and having all those memories kind of like stirred back up, it's pretty incredible.
I'm curious, you did say before we started recording, it's been 20 years that you were in Seattle and you've come back to Utah now. What did you miss most from your time away?
Wow. Okay. So, there's actually 2 questions there. I think the first question would be, when you were living in Seattle, what did you miss about Utah? The sun. and kind of the reverse question of that would be, what do you miss the least in Seattle? It's the rain. But what I miss the most about Seattle, honestly, is just the diversity. It's diversity of people, it's diversity of food. There's just so many amazing people that live in that Seattle area that just makes it unique.
And can I ask you to share your origin story and how you spent 20 years at Microsoft, where you built products, including the legendary Microsoft 365, of course. Quite a backstory there.
Yeah, to be really clear, I was one of many leaders that worked on Microsoft 365. That was definitely a team effort with, 12, 13, 14,000 engineers working on that. What a ride of a lifetime. To get a chance to work on something like Microsoft 365, where you have hundreds of millions of people every day using the capabilities that you're working on. I mean, that's like the dream of any engineer. Any engineer wants to work at some place where you're able to impact society, you're able to impact the world and impact humans individually. And that was just what was one of the most unique things about Microsoft. The second thing is, the work that I did was all around management and security. So you can think of things like, Windows Update, I led that for many, many years. Defender, the anti-malware, I built that. And I built all the management tools that most companies use as a part of Microsoft 365. And, what an amazing experience to, be able to pull all of the information that comes into Microsoft, then apply policy. And, I'm sure that by now it's all as driven by AI. But you can change the way in which organizations operate by giving these amazing experiences that make people more collaborative.
And of course, that path would lead you to Qualtrics, where you were the person responsible for the strategy and direction of product and service portfolio. So can you tell me more about your focus this year, and also what excites you about this year as well, and everything you're working on?
Yeah. And as we lead into that, maybe even touching on why would I leave Microsoft and come to Qualtrics? I honestly thought I would retire from Microsoft, and I love that place. I had a chance to report to Satya for a number of years and just kind of learn just things I don't think I would ever have learned anywhere else. But as I started to investigate Qualtrics, as the CEO and founder had called me and said, "Hey, why don't you move back to Utah and come help us build this company?" What struck me was, if you look at experience management, it is going to be one of the next generation category top priorities in the world. Because if you think about it, experience management sits at this intersection between humans and technology, and every organization is pushing everything to digital. So how do you make these digital experiences more human? And so, it's pretty rare in your career that you get a chance to help create an entirely new category. So that was super interesting. And then on a personal level, I was born and raised here. And so coming back to my hometown and giving back and helping, the community grow, you have this personal and a business mission that, how often do you ever see?
Yeah. There's something beautiful in that, isn't there?
Yeah, and it felt right, And so some of the best advice I got as I was struggling through this decision was, if one of these things, either staying at Microsoft or going to Qualtrics, does one speak to your head a little bit more, or to your heart a little bit more? And this one just spoke to my heart just a little bit more for those reasons, and so that's why I came. Now, in terms of what I'm seeing and where the market is going, if you think about experience management, it has historically been, you ask for feedback after some kind of an interaction, right? So, you stay at a hotel and you ask, "Hey, how was it?" It's always been post-transaction. And sometimes it's days, weeks, or months after. And so, you tend to lose the intensity of the sentiment that you were feeling. So you give feedback and it's not going to be as vivid as if you're doing it right in the moment. So the biggest thing that I see happening right now is we need to move as an industry to relying upon surveys or questions that are asked post-transaction to be able to listen and understand in real time to the conversations that are happening and coach the front line on what the next best action is in the moment, in real time. That's the single biggest shift that's happening in experience management, and it's profound. Now, to do this, you have to have everything driven by AI. And so you have to, for example, take the scenario of a call center. You've got somebody on the call center, these agents are overworked, they're stressed, sometimes they're getting yelled at. And if you're going to help coach and guide them in the moment, you need to be listening into the conversation and then using natural language understanding and processing, be able to pull out, okay, here's what the customer is trying to accomplish. Here's the emotion that they're feeling. Here's the effort that they're putting forth. And then in real time, be able to coach the agent. Here's what your next best step is. That's a profound shift in how experience management works. And so that's where things are all heading. And that's where I have the engineering team focused at.
Wow, incredibly cool. Well, I'm curious, as someone who speaks with customers worldwide, are there any trends of the kind of things that people are coming in asking for your help with at the moment? Because you've got the ear of so many people, so many big organizations all around the world. I'm curious if there are any trends in those conversations you're having.
Yeah, and you know what? It's so much fun. It is so much fun to just go out and meet with leaders on what we're doing. Because, I look at what Qualtrics does and I think it's noble. I mean, think about the mission, help drive bad experiences out of the world. I mean, it's all about creating a better human experience, whether either as a customer or as an employee. So what do I hear? A couple of things from the HR teams who are looking after the employees or the people teams. They want to know in real time what their people are thinking. Most organizations do an annual survey once a year. I mean, they only ask their team, how are you doing once a year? Some of the more sophisticated ones may be doing it quarterly, but it's not enough. And so, these HR teams are coming in and saying, help us understand what is happening day in and day out so that we understand the things that we can do to improve employee engagement. The other thing that I hear from the HR teams is we need help proving the impact of the programs we're putting in for the employees on the business, especially in 2023 where budgets are being tightened. To get something funded where you want to go and say, hey, here's a program we want to put in place for our employees. If you don't show how it impacts the top and bottom line, it doesn't get funded. And so leaders are coming through and saying, Brad, help us understand if we make these following, of all the things that we could invest in the employee experience, can you help us identify the ones that are also going to drive revenue? Because we can get those approved. So that's what I hear on the HR side. On the customer side, every organization is struggling with understanding the end-to-end user journey. Think about it for a minute. In almost every service that we use, it's a combination of digital and humans. Take, for example, travel. You book a travel, and most actually people prefer to do that digitally. You get to an airport, you check in, you go through security, you board, you get food on the plane, you deplane, you hope your baggage made it. Think about that for a minute. Those are all humans and they're different teams.
Yeah.
And so the user journey is actually very complex when you take and look at the digital front line and the human front line. And then, to hang on that human front line, if you run into a problem, you call the call center. Sometimes that starts digitally, you're chatting. If it can't get solved, it moves to voice. And so now you've crossed that channel again. So we have been really focused on what customers are telling us is we need to understand that end-to-end journey because it's omni-channel, it's crossing multiple teams. In most organizations, for example, the digital experience, the website or the app is a completely different team than who's servicing the call center. And customers see that. They see that. They can see that break. They can see those silos. And so companies are coming back and saying, help us eliminate those silos so we can give this beautiful experience end to end across all of the digital and human channels.
And from those conversations, can you tell me more about how it inspires you to design products and meet those constantly shifting and evolving needs of your customers? Because I don't know, if we go back a few years, these kind of IT projects took years to implement, but that's no longer a luxury, is it? They've come to you with a problem and they expect a solution very quickly now.
Yeah, I love the question. If you think about what an engineer wants to do, so put yourself in the seat of myself or an engineer. You want to build technology that improves society. Okay. And so as I think about what gets me excited, it really is about we have this unique set of capabilities that help us to make businesses more human. When I say business is more human, here's an interesting data point. If you look at the call center, our research shows that when the agent who is servicing the customer shows empathy and the customer feels that empathy, it's twice as impactful to customer loyalty as short wait times. I mean, just think about that for a minute. That's profound. And so how do you help these front lines? And think about front lines. It could be the call center. It could be the person checking you in at a hotel, someone servicing you in a hospital. How do you help them to understand what is happening and what the next best action is? And so all of the AI, all the work that we're doing that can listen into any conversation. It could be a chat, be a phone call. It could be a review that someone has written up on a website or something posted on Glassdoor. We have the ability to understand what's the intent, what's the emotion, what's the intensity of the emotion, how much effort is being put forth, and what's the sentiment that the individual is feeling. And so we can now deliver that in real time to help these front lines.
And obviously we're recording this podcast today in Utah at X4, the Qualtrics event. So I'm curious, are there any teasers you can share on what you're working on at the moment? I appreciate there's probably only so much you can share.
Oh, no, man, we're a pretty open book. I mean, if I were to really just summarize it to two things, AI and enabling the front line. And so, when I talk in a couple of days, the whole conversation is about the fact that we have the largest database of human sentiment on the planet. I mean, to kind of give you an idea of the scale. Last year, just in 2022, our customers analyzed more than 2 billion conversations. They analyzed more than 1.6 billion survey responses or pieces of information that came back. They updated more than 10 billion profiles in our system with that information. And that grew from 5 billion to 10 billion in the last 12 months. And then they executed over 2 billion workflows in our system to close those experience gaps. And that's incredible scale. And so, with all of that data, we have the most human sentiment data on the planet to train our AI, to train our ML. And so just the level of precision, the level of direction and coaching that we can give, it's just unparalleled because, as you think about AI, it's all about what's the data that you have to train your models. Right? So that'll be the first thing that I talk about in great detail. The second thing that I'll talk about is, really historically experience management has been used by a very, very small set of people in a company. It's the strategic research team, and they're go out making and recommending profound decisions on the direction of the company and products. But it's a very, very small set of people. I'll give you an example. I was meeting with a retailer in Europe last year, and we were walking through our customer experience roadmap. And so I remember asking the team, hey, how many people are on your CX program? How many employees? It was 5. And I said, and how many people are on your employee experience? 3. So 8 people are responsible for engaging, customers across 4,000 stores, 300,000 employees, servicing 50 million households. It's 8. And so a big part of my vision here is, getting this into the hands of as many people in a company as we can, because these experiences are often made or broken on the front line. I mean, I think everybody has had an experience where you have a terrible experience with a frontline individual. Sometimes that's the only human that you ever talk with or see for a company. And so enabling them to understand what they should do and what that next best action is, that's where I think, the world changes, because we better equip these people to deliver amazing service.
And it's funny, isn't it? For just 4 months ago, to many people in certain industries, they may have seen AI as just another buzzword. But then ChatGPT come, everyone's kind of like, I get it now.
Different world, isn't it? 100%.
So what do you, where do you see the experience industry going? Are there any other trends you see forming, or anything else that excites you? Because everywhere we turn, especially on the show floor here, everyone's talking about experience. How do we stay ahead of the game? I'm curious what you're seeing here.
Yeah, this is a very unique event. It's a very unique event in the fact that it's a bunch of business leaders and it's a bunch of practitioners whose whole mission in life is to deliver amazing experiences. And so there's an energy, there's a vibe here that is tangible, and it's very different from anything that I've ever been a part of. In terms of the trends, it goes back to the things we talked about. AI delivering real-time recommendation and coaching to the front line, and getting the concepts and the understanding and the learning that experience management brings to every single person in the company. In my mind, I spent a lot of time working on Microsoft 365. I think XM is also a suite that needs to be in the hands of all your people.
And do you think that's something you'll see more and more now?
That is definitely how I'm building the product.
So what's captured your attention here at X4? Because obviously we've got people from 165 countries around the world listening. You can't fly everybody here, unfortunately. So what's caught your attention here, and what will you be thinking about on that drive home after the event and when the dust has settled?
It's funny. We had an all-hands meeting yesterday for the company, and we kind of gave an overview of what we're going to be talking about here at the event. And it was actually a very emotional moment, just being able to stand in front of the company and say, look at all of the innovation that we've worked on in the last 12 months that we're going to roll out to the world. And it is more innovation than we have ever released at one time. And so for me personally, that is the thing that I will always take away from this event. It's the first time most of us have got together at an event in 4 years because of the pandemic, and just the personal reward, if you will, of seeing all the innovation that has come is what will stick with me.
And looking back, we started the podcast talking about your origin story, what put you on this path, and obviously the great work that you've done there. So I'm curious, what are the biggest lessons that you've learned about building innovative products? Because it's something that everybody's trying to do, innovative products and services, but what are the biggest lessons that you've learned to, I don't know, maybe a startup founder listening at the very beginning of their career? What would you say you've learned along the way?
The thing to me is, how do you define innovation, right? Innovation, in my mind, is not a science project. Innovation is something that changes society. And so as I think about innovation, you have to build something that is easy to use, easy to deploy, and is used at scale. Otherwise, you've built something cool, but it's benefiting no one. And so for me, as I focus on how do we drive innovation, where do we focus the team at, it's being incredibly close to our customers, deep connection, having empathy for them, but listening so we can understand both their voice and their unvoiced needs so that we can go innovate and deliver those.
And do you think people that don't take things like that seriously, and businesses that don't take experience management seriously, are they going to get left behind, or are they already being left behind?
They're already being left behind. We've got data, for example, that, the organizations that are in the top quartile of experience management have more than 30% higher revenue growth and profit. I mean, the business results are unquestionable. And just think about your own personal life's experiences. In today's world, with everything being digitized, the switching cost is basically a tap of the finger. And so think about an experience where you've gone to go buy something, for example, something happens with the web page, you get a dead link, or, something happens, you just go to the next. And so that's an example of where if you had real-time capabilities that were able to detect, oh, hey, this user is lost and is getting frustrated. And you can see that like with rage tapping, you can see that with rapid mouse movements, to be able to intervene in that moment. That's experience management. And so that's an example where you can ensure you're not losing customers just because of a poor experience that often in the digital, you don't know until it's too late.
Well, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to sit down with me today, Brad. I know you're recording back-to-back interviews at the event, so it's a little bit crazy for you. Not only that, you've got people dragging you off the show floor and keynotes, etc. But I'm going to ask you to leave one other thing for everyone listening, one more gift, and that is, can you name a book that has inspired you or means something to you that we can add to our Amazon wish list for everyone listening? All I'm going to ask is, what book would you recommend everyone read and why?
Yeah, so this is a little bit U.S. based or biased, if you will. But I'll never forget when I read the book on Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow. Here is a guy who, born in one of the Caribbean islands, poor as dirt, not an obvious path to not only survive, but to impact the world. I mean, and just to follow his story. Yeah, he made mistakes like all of us do, but look at all of the benefits that came to the U.S. that have then been, expanded around the globe. And to think that this came from this kid born in abject poverty in the Caribbean, to me, that's inspiring. That's scrappy. And I love those scrappy stories because, it just helps all of us understand you can have a profound impact on the world if you are committed and dedicated and passionate.
Excellent. That is a beautiful moment to end on. But before I let you go, there's so much happening here at X4 this week, from Ryan Reynolds to Martha Stewart, not to mention so many great keynotes. And if anyone wanted to check out some of that or maybe contact your team, what's the best thing or the best starting point for all things Qualtrics?
Yeah, you come to the website, and what people will see is, over the next few days as we get through the conference, we will post the keynotes up on our streaming service. And so we have a streaming service called XM Plus. And yeah, it was really, I think we were the first kind of B2B company that came up with a streaming service that has like literally high quality content on it. But we'll get these posted up there so you can understand what our vision is, where we think the world is going, and you'll just be able to go stream it.
Fantastic. Well, once again, just a big thank you for taking the time to sit down with me today. I hope you have a fantastic X4 this year.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for this opportunity.
And over to you. How are you or your business using tech to turn a customer into a fanatic, an employee into an ambassador, a product into an obsession, and create those right home, tell everyone you know kind of experiences? I'd love to hear more about your stories too, so please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram @NeilC.Hughes. But I'll be back again tomorrow. I've got another guest lined up backstage to talk with us all. So thank you for listening today, and until next time, don't be a stranger.